Balatro Warriors, episode 466. Woo. As always, I'm your host, Justin Baker, and as always, I'm joined by Viable Human, Chris Saturn.
Hi, Justin.
Andrew left the chat the second I finished saying 466, and I thought I dropped out of the chat, and I almost went, shit!
It's episode 460 shit.
460 shit. As far as housekeeping,
Yes,
I don't know, man. It's been a night. It's been a weird night.
It's been a weird night.
Of
And then
some
you're going to be
weird
out of town for
topics.
several days. And
We had town. We just finished one of our longest recordings, individual episode recordings of ever.
well, that's because we had so much problems on the pre-show, though.
That's true. It's 40 minutes.
The episode
it has
itself
to be our
was
longest
relatively
pre-show.
normal. Yeah.
Has
yeah.
to be
it
our
has to be
longest pre-show
pre-show.
by a wide margin.
Right.
So it's been a weird night.
Yeah.
Weird night. So just if it's weird, then welcome to the show.
It's totally normal.
This is the first episode of our show you've ever listened to, then it doesn't get better. So, so maybe that's good. You start
write
at
it
the
out.
bottom. So just write it out. My week.
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing Mario Kart. My daughter has been playing that with me because she's on
Nice.
summer vacation. So I've been trying to get her to play some video
Presumably
games.
Mario Kart 8,
Mario Kart 8 on Switch.
which
She's
is a
been
10-year-old
enjoying it
game now.
greatly. God damn it. That's so long ago.
Yeah.
She's really enjoying it, having a good time with it. She's gotten to where with the full assist, like the driving assist and the auto acceleration on, she can get first place on 50cc.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been her like achievement so far of the summer. And she only does versus race, so she can pick each track. That's very important to her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she wants me to play with her, but we have to play on a team. So we have to do versus race team.
Okay.
And much like the way I play Halo with her, I have to figure out how to strategically, like I win a lot of them, but every now and then
Yeah.
I'll try to like get her to win one.
Right.
And I have to play like second place, like, defensive position, trying to like keep her in first.
Which, if you haven't played Mario Kart 8 specifically, second place is way harder than first place
It is.
because
It's
the
real
AI
hard.
targets you.
Yeah. And so it's been fun. She's been enjoying it. I've gotten to play some of the new tracks, some of the new characters.
Yeah.
I've realized I just don't fucking care. I don't care about Mario Kart. I don't.
okay.
I never was a huge Mario Kart fan,
Okay.
but I played a good amount of 7 and 8, and I just don't. I don't care. I don't know.
I love me some Mario Kart. And the one thing I'll say, the Wii version of Mario Kart is way better for teams because then you can't hurt each other if you're on the same team. Whereas in Mario
Oh, I
Kart
didn't
8,
realize that.
you can still attack each other even if it's accidental.
It's weird because like there are multiple people in my life, in our circle of friends, that are like, "Oh, let's play Mario Kart for 4 hours tonight."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No,
I don't see a problem with that.
I could do like a Grand Prix, maybe that and a couple versus modes, and then I'm kind of Mario Karted out. I can do like an hour of it, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm
The
ready to
only
move
part
on.
of Mario Kart that I don't care about is the battle mode. Like, I could skip that.
I like the battle modes. I think I probably like them more than the racing, and I think that might be what puts me at odds with basically everyone else who likes Mario Kart,
Probably,
including
yeah.
Nintendo, because they didn't even include a proper battle mode in Mario Kart 8.
Yep.
When it first came out, they were just like, what if it's on the regular tracks? Then everyone else should have been like, that literally doesn't work. That means that you...
Didn't the Wii U version not even have a battle mode?
It had a battle mode, but it didn't. They didn't have battle tracks, so it was just the regular racetrack, and you can't do a battle mode on the regular racetrack because there's nowhere for anyone to be. It's not like an arena where you're all fighting each other. It's just like just race in circles, and you're like, well, that's the regular game. We wanted the battle mode to be a battle mode. And I don't know. Like, it's cool. The new tracks are cool. The new characters are cool. I don't know. Everyone else I know seems to have much more stamina for Mario Kart than I do. I get about an hour of it, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm over it.
That's fair.
I can't. I don't want to spend all evening doing Mario Kart. Still slowly pecking away at Balatro. I've finally gotten wins on a few more decks.
Nice.
Most recently, a flush deck.
Yeah.
I got that one that treats both red suits and both black suits as the same suits.
Yeah, it's a good deck.
And then you just build a flush deck out. And,
I also
that's
like
been pretty fun.
to hunt for the the tarot cards that turn cards into different suits and try to build an entire deck of one suit. That's
just
always,
only flush.
Fun. Yeah, that's always great. Because then you can end up with a bunch of straight flushes and 5 flushes and flush houses and stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah, and so I'm still just, I don't. It's so good. I know we talk about Balatro all the time, like every episode for a couple months now.
Because it's very orangey.
It's so orangey.
Yeah.
But it's just like it's real good when it's like, I got like 5 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
What can I do for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
And the answer is figure out how to get more time because you want to play 30 minutes of Balatro because 5 minutes was just enough to start building a good deck. And if you get out of that headspace, you're going to forget. I've never been able to resume a run after pausing it and know what the fuck I was doing.
I've like the first hand or two, I'll be like, what was I going for in this run? But usually I'm good at getting back to it.
I'm real bad about really hunting down negative jokers. Mm-hmm. So I'll have like 8 jokers.
Yep.
8, 9 jokers.
I had a run the other day where I had 16 jokers.
Yeah, and it just gets so complicated. I'm like, what was I doing? And it's so many to read through, and they're all like polychrome and negative and shit. I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. I give up. I'll start a new run. That's fine.
It's great.
But yeah, lots of Mario Kart, lots of Balatro. Still playing some Halo with the kiddo.
Yeah.
But that's about it. What about you, Saturn? What have you been playing?
So the Rocket Knight collection came out.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. I'm still unhappy that they skipped Xbox, but everything skips Xbox, so it's fine. But it's a good collection. It's good games. They're just as good as I remember them being. I still love Sparkster. I still think that's the best of the games in the series. The collection itself is fine. It's all right. Like they don't seem to have gone super above and beyond or anything, but the emulation is fine.
Yeah.
But I also picked up Platform 8, which is from the developers of the Exit 8. And it is basically the same game, but instead of being
that weird like liminal horror thing that you were playing. Okay.
Yeah. So instead of being in a underground passageway going to or from a subway, you are on the train itself. Mm-hmm. So you are just in a train car with one other dude, and it is just as creepy as the original, and I am enjoying it. And I have found some of the really weird shit, but I don't want to go into it because it's all spoilers. But I do appreciate that the developers just keep patching it, sometimes multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And so, like, the Steam log for it, just for the last, 3 or 4 days, is a dozen patches. I'm sending you a screenshot of what this looks like, because it's absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, I saw it when you put it in the general chat, and it was like 9 patches in a row in 2 days.
Yeah, it's even more now. They just keep going. And it's and I appreciate that level of support, that they really do care about fixing it and making it good. But it is silly that my Steam has to update it literally every time I turn the game off.
That's a little excessive.
Yeah, but it's good though. If you're looking for that weird horror-y experience, it is worth checking out.
I am not.
I know you aren't. But I'm kind of using it to appease me until Silent Hill 2 comes out, because after watching the trailer of that the other day, I'm pretty stoked about Silent Hill 2.
When is that?
October 8th, I believe, is the date that they gave for it. We finally got a release date for Silent Hill, and it looks pretty good. I do not care what incels on the internet say about it. It looks really good, and I am ready to play it.
Yeah, people are real, not people.
They're definitely not people.
Chuds.
Yeah, chuds. The chuds are very upset about it. There's been some back and forth in Silent Hill fan communities about whether or not those people complaining about it have ever actually played the original games.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the things they are complaining about really go against the theme of the game. So it's frustrating.
Let's do some news.
Will there be any chuds in the news?
God, usually, yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
First up, Playdate says they found the 400,000 stolen Playdates in the parking lot of a restaurant.
Yeah.
Because apparently even thieves can't sell Playdate. I don't know.
Yeah,
I do. I've not checked in on that thing in a little while. I wonder how their sales are doing.
I don't know. It feels like it is a marketing stunt to me, because that just,
You think so?
I don't know, because why would they just appear in the parking lot of a restaurant?
Now, man, I don't know. Like, I didn't read this story. If they are saying they found them,
Yeah.
then it is a marketing stunt. If they're like, oh, the police contacted us and they found our stolen goods, they were in a restaurant parking lot, a little more believable.
Yeah, and from what I have heard from people who are more closely following it, apparently these things were found because police were getting closer to determining where they were, and so they were just abandoned there or something.
Yeah, I could see that.
But either way, I don't know. Who is stealing 400,000 playdates?
I don't. Yeah.
Like, what did
that's
you
my
think you were
thing
going to do with
is
them?
I'm like, what thief is targeting indie handheld platform Playdate when they
Right.
could steal 400,000 of any other consumer electronic?
Or they could steal random boxes from a shipping truck.
Yeah, or steal, I don't know, 400,000 PlayStations. Like, that
Right.
would be a much better score. Although I imagine the security's a little tighter. So.
I'm just imagining it's like a Smash TV situation where you just end up with 400,000 VCRs.
That's because you did so good at the game, Saturn.
Yeah, you just get all these VCRs.
A promotional Namco VHS tape has been found with footage of a never-released Famicom RPG based on Splatterhouse Wanpaku Graffiti.
And I think this was announced back in the day and then canceled, but it's neat to finally have some footage of it. I would have absolutely played Chibi Splatterhouse RPG back then.
Totally, yeah. Modders have made an online multiplayer mod for Crash Team Racing.
I'd just like to say that how you feel about Mario Kart, that's how I feel about Crash Team Racing. Like, I just
Isn't
don't
it kind
care.
of the same thing, though?
I don't know. I've never been able to care at all about Crash Team Racing. Every time I try it, I'm just like, meh.
I mean, that whole, like, genre of, like, you know, like, all those, like, what, Diddy Kong Racing,
Right.
Crash Team Racing, Mario Kart, you know, the others.
I've only ever gotten into Mario Kart. All the rest of them that I try, I'm just like, this just feels like an also-ran.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I did like the Sonic Racing one was pretty fun, the
I
transformed
don't
one.
like that one either. It
I like
feels
that one a
super
lot.
bland to me.
Oh, I like that one. Mostly because it was so stupid.
It
Like
is
one
stupid.
of the cars is like just a guy standing in front of an arcade machine, and it's on wheels. I'm like, that's the level of stupidity I'm after. Like, give me that really dumb shit. But they all felt kind of the same to me, to the point that they were largely interchangeable. So maybe that's it. I don't know. Sega/Atlas will be delisting Shin Megami Tensei 5 on the Switch eShop on June 13th, ahead of the release of SMT5 Vengeance.
Well,
So
at least the
that's-
physical version's still out there.
Yes, there you go. And I feel like that one got discounted really quick. I remember I picked it up and played like a dozen hours and was like, man, I just don't love this. And just kind of put it
I feel
down.
like you get that point a lot of the times at about the dozen-hour mark for games.
I think what it is I don't have it in me to play more than 20 hours of a game. So if I hit a dozen hours and you're like, hey, you're almost done with chapter 1, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't think this is going to happen. So the question is, do I want to quit in the middle of chapter 3 or do I want to quit now? Because those are sort of where I'm at on it, you know. But I don't know. YouTube channel Hard for Games.
I'm guessing you've not watched that YouTube channel.
No, Hard for Games has purchased a WATA-sealed prototype of Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back for NES and promptly shattered the case open to dump and preserve the ROM, because that's what you should be doing. Quit putting them in acrylic. It's
Yes.
fucking weird.
I'm
It's
all for this
strange. Stop that. Also, WATA is a scam.
story. Yes.
Just throwing that one out there in case any of us forgot about that little tidbit of information. Metal Slug Tactics is getting a playable demo on Steam on June 10th. I'm trepidatious, but excited.
At least they are releasing a demo, so we can try it before it comes out.
There you go. That's usually a positive move. Companies confident enough to release a demo, usually it means that they have something
Right.
worth playing.
Yeah.
I'm not in love with SNK as a company for some financial related reasons. Right now, they're kind of in a weird spot, but I'm always excited to see more Metal Slug. So,
Right.
you know. Sega and Amazon have announced Like a Dragon Yakuza, an upcoming live-action series on Prime Video. I don't know how to feel.
Yeah.
Because here's my thing.
Uh-huh.
If they make it as stupid as Yakuza is,
Yeah. Then I'm
100% into it.
there. Yeah.
But if they make it just a serious crime drama,
Yeah, I'm not
I'm
interested in
upset.
that. Because that's not what the series is. It needs some stupid in there.
yes, I really worry that they're going to bring in the drama, but not also bring in the silliness. Like the moments at the end, whenever they all rip off their shirts to reveal their tattoos and have their final battle, I feel like they're going to present that. I feel like they would present it as serious. When in reality, you're like, no, this is the pinnacle of the stupid.
In fairness, the game tries to treat it like it's serious too, no matter how stupid it is.
The context of it makes it dumb.
Yeah.
Like it's always dumb. It's always fun. And I'm very nervous that they're going to be like, oh yeah, it's just a real serious crime drama. And I'm like, no, it's a man failing to go on dates and doing stupid shit and hitting people with bicycles.
Now, from the description they've released, it sounds like it's supposed to be telling of the first game's story, which makes sense. And that was comparatively the least goofy of the games.
True. So maybe we should approach it with, some
trepidation.
Yeah, but we'll see.
Yeah,
I'm excited about the idea of it.
Yeah.
Because if they can nail the tone, it's going to be wonderful.
Oh yeah.
But I'm a little nervous about that. Lost Atari 2600 Tarzan prototype has been found and preserved.
I'm all for that.
So there you go. New Atari game.
More prototypes found and preserved. One of the headlines that I read about this was like beloved, cherished prototype or something like that. I'm like, I don't know that any unfinished Atari games are beloved. That's like even some of the quote unquote finished ones are pretty tough to love these days.
Fans have ported the original Fallout to 3DS for a reason that remains unknown to us. But if you want, you can play Fallout 1 on 3DS. I can't imagine it's an awesome experience.
Didn't the first Fallout use the same or very similar game engine to the first Baldur's Gate?
If it was not the same, then it felt the same.
Because I wonder if now it'll be any easier to port that to 3DS.
That's a good point. I mean, you've got a touch screen, so you've got virtually mouse input, after a fashion. So it could work. Mm-hmm. I just don't know that I want to play anything that wordy and built for a computer monitor on that small of a screen.
Well, just put all the words on the second screen.
Oh, there you go. LRG has announced a port of Tomba to modern platforms as a digital-only release, though a physical is supposedly coming later. Yeah. I don't know that I've ever played more than 5 minutes of either Tomba. There's two of them, right?
Yeah, I only ever played the demo that came with something.
Yeah, maybe I should get, because that's a pretty
it has a beloved base,
PlayStation B-side game.
Yeah,
and
I was just never a big fan of 3D platformers, so I didn't really care.
IKEA has announced they'll be hiring real employees for their virtual showroom in Roblox because the internet is a weird fucking place, man.
This is what 2024 is now.
Welcome to the virtual showroom selling IKEA furniture to children in Roblox. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre. And finally, an unofficial port of Jak and Daxter to PC has been released with local and online multiplayer. So I never played any of the Jak and Daxter games.
The first one was all right. I played a bit of it. I know the second one was a little controversial at release just because of a very different tone from the first game. And then the third game, if I remember right, was almost a GTA clone or something.
They were weird.
Yeah, it was a weird trajectory.
The first Jak and Daxter came out and it was like, oh, it's just kind of like Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah. Well, this was before Ratchet and Clank.
Well, then Ratchet and Clank is just kind of like Jak and Daxter. And then I feel like the later games wanted to kind of differentiate. I feel like there was a few games kind of rapid fire in that era that felt like they wanted to be almost like the successor genre to like mascot platformers.
Yeah, it was Sony had previously relied so heavily on Crash and Spyro in the PS1 era, but then Universal told them that those games weren't going to be exclusive anymore. So Sony was just throwing everything they could at the wall to make some new mascots for the PS2, and you had Jak and Daxter, and you had Sly Cooper, and you had all this stuff like in quick succession there.
Well,
in the
then we
early
also got
PS2
stuff
era.
like Metal Arms and
Yep.
Blinks, the Time Sweeper, and like it was a thing. It
Yeah.
was kind of a thing. I never played any of them. I need to. I still need to go back. Did they do a collection for Jak and Daxter? I feel like they did.
I think so. Yeah, I think it was on
I just
PS3.
never bothered. I forgot about Sly Cooper too. Completely forgot about that.
Yeah, I really dug on the
entirely.
Sly Cooper games.
Yeah. Which brings us to our topic at hand, which is Star Soldier.
It's basically the same as Sly Cooper, apparently.
It's pretty much the same.
Yeah, it's basically just the same.
Synopsis here is a bunch of vertical shmups from Hudson that are definitely a single series.
Totally.
And let me give some background on this episode.
Okay.
This was originally going to be our Ayuden Chronicle story episode.
Yeah, part 2.
Because for people that follow us, our JRPGs, we usually split them into two. We have one that's all gameplay and technical stuff, and then we have one episode that's story.
Right.
But
we didn't
if
finish it.
If you listen to the Ayuden Chronicle episode, you'll know why we didn't want to do a story episode.
Yeah.
So this episode was cooked up at like
The 11th hour.
the 11th hour. Yeah. It's like absolutely like right. We're like, shit, we recording like 14 hours. What do we do? So I was not able to do the amount of research that I normally do. And by research, I mean game playing. And playing through these, I was like, this is weird. And so now I suspect that I might have been picking up on something by this hilarious synopsis you put in here about how these are definitely a single game series.
Yeah, and not at all just a bunch of different games all released with the same name structure.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So release info. The first game was on NES, June 13th, 1986, Japan, 89 in North America. It came out on the MSX in 1986 sometime.
Yeah,
It's
sometime in
MSX.
86.
Nobody really knows.
Right.
Most recent release in the series would be Star Soldier R, which was a WiiWare
game.
release, March 25th, 08 in Japan, May 19th, 08 worldwide. Did we talk about that on our WiiWare
We
episode?
mentioned it, yeah.
I think it came up briefly.
Yeah.
As far as first encounters, my first encounter with Star Soldier
8 minutes
was
ago.
8 minutes ago. I'm playing it right now. This seems fun, Saturn. Was the release of Superstar Soldier on Virtual Console.
Nice.
And it was an early VC release.
Yep.
I remember that.
It was one of the first TurboGrafx games released in the US on Virtual Console.
It was pretty early, and I downloaded it, and I was like, this is... Because I didn't know what a TurboGrafx was. I'd never heard of it.
Right.
I mean, by the time I was gaming, like... Because, I was born in 88, so like...
Yeah. So by the
You
time
know.
you were paying attention, the TurboGrafx already died.
Yeah, it was dead and gone. The only 8-bit system I knew was the NES. The only reason I knew it is because we had one. And so I had no idea. And I downloaded it off Virtual Console just because it was there and it was
Yeah.
exciting. And for people that don't remember, the Virtual Console was exciting.
Yeah.
And it was like, you can just download a game.
Yeah.
You don't have to buy a disc or anything. And it's only like $5 or $6.
It's all these old retro games, and they're going to release some every week, so it's exciting every week to see what's released.
And I downloaded it. I was like, I don't know what a TurboGrafx is, but I'm gonna get this game. This looks fun. And I played it, and I was like, this is like Gradius, but like way better. And then I kept catching my mom playing it, she does not play video games. She was just intrigued by the Wii.
Yeah.
And didn't really like Wii Sports, and then for some reason fell into Superstar Soldier
Nice.
of all games, which is kind of strange.
It's a good game.
And so Superstar Soldier has kind of been my anchor in the series, and it was not until this episode that I really got outside of that, except for a spin-off game that we'll talk about later.
Right.
So I was very much a latecomer to the Star Soldier series. Saturn, what about you?
I'd skipped the NES game just because the box art looks super generic.
Yeah,
and
it's like a guy, right? It's
Yeah,
just like a guy on a
just
computer or something.
It's like bland mid 80s VHS sci-fi cover.
Here, here it is. Oh no, this is not what I thought it was. It's a guy holding a gun.
Yeah.
Like a pistol, but then
Yeah.
they have the ship they're shooting, which all right, that implies shmup.
Right.
But
I
then why
guess.
is there a man standing there with a pistol?
Yeah, like budget store Dustin Hoffman hanging out there with a pistol.
It does look like Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah, it's just a really strange cover, And so it did nothing for me. I was not interested in whatever this was supposed to be.
It's very Western looking.
Yeah, and so I skipped it. But then when I had my TurboGrafx, and I was looking at the handful of games at my local rental store to rent, they had Super Star Soldier, which is a much more colorful cover and a much more interesting cover, and it's got a giant mecha scorpion on it and shit. And I was like, yeah, I'll see what this is. I didn't even put two and two together that was related to the other one. I thought it was just, for some reason, ultra patriotic or something. But I tried it out and thought it was pretty good. And then years later, I tried Soldier Blade, probably through an emulator first, and thought that was pretty good, not realizing they were connected. And then years and years and years later, I realized it was all supposed to be a connected franchise, and started trying some of the others.
Yes. Tell me about the development of Star Soldier.
So it gets on a weird tangent, kind of, because we start with non-Star Soldier.
Yes.
So in '85, Hudson had ported Tecmo's Star Force to MSX and Famicom. And for people who don't remember, Star Force was an early shmup that Tecmo put out. And to promote the release of the game on Famicom, Hudson held these little events across Japan, which they referred to as a caravan competition. And it was the first such event in Japan in the video game industry. So it was kind of the birth of the caravan shooter. And for the record, the NES port of Star Force that we got over here in America is not the same game that Hudson released in Japan. It's similar.
That would be too convenient.
Like, it's the same game in general, but it's not the same port of the same game.
Yeah.
So after the successful caravan events and the successful Famicom release of Star Force, Hudson wanted to follow up on that and capitalize on the whole event and the success of the game. But they didn't own the IP, and they didn't want to keep paying Tecmo for this IP, so they decided to make their own game that was loosely based on what they did in porting Star Force to NES, which became Star Soldier. And they had another successful caravan competition upon the release of Star Soldier, so they decided to just keep on doing that with any future shmups and Star Soldier games that they released.
Yeah.
And
Which
then
the weird part is to my knowledge, the caravan mode was not introduced into the series until what we like the first one didn't have a caravan mode, did it?
No. I believe they had custom versions of the game that were only caravan that they used in these competitions.
I'd seen those. I know, like Final Soldier got a special version.
Yeah.
A few of them have special versions, but it was and then later, like I want to say, like I don't remember if Soldier Blade had it. But at some point, the series begins including their caravan modes in the main game.
Right.
And it's weird to me that this was like before the game, even the inception of Star Soldier, they were doing these caravans, but it seemed to take them a while to be like, hey, we should make this like part of the game,
part of the released game that people could play at home instead of only at the event.
The actual software, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so but they did eventually start including them. But yeah, early on it was just the competition. It was, if you wanted to play the caravan version, you had to go to the event.
Yeah.
Which, was all over Japan. So it's not like you would miss it. There'd probably be one in your area.
Yeah.
If you were in Japan and not over here with us.
Schmucks.
Yeah, us schmucks and our lack of caravan options.
Who only got Nintendo World Championships.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, and you couldn't play it unless you went there.
Right. Or you could be on that one TV show where you had to go play a game. What was that?
Nick Arcade?
Nick Arcade.
Yeah.
There you go.
So after the first couple of releases there, the first Star Force and then also the first Star Soldier, is when Hudson and NEC were working on the what would become the PC Engine. And so when the PC Engine released, they shifted a lot of their development from NES and Famicom over to PC Engine. So you started to see more games and Star Soldier series release on the PC Engine rather than on the NES or the Super NES. And this also was part of the PC Engine's release, was that games cost them less to produce. They weren't having to pay for the same kind of ROM cartridges that they paid for on Famicom, because Hue cards were cheaper and later CD-ROM was cheaper when the PC Engine CD came out. So they started making the dedicated caravan versions of the games both for their competitions and available for distribution. I think only at the competition, but the copies floated around out there, and I believe are still floating around. So you started to see the Caravan versions of a lot of the future games.
Yeah.
And then they continued to support other consoles with compilations of Star Soldier games. Starting with the Super NES, there was a compilation of the 3 games. Again, didn't come out in the US, but at least available in Japan. But then you started to see shmups in general start to fade in popularity around the same time the PC Engine was dying, and they just kind of let the series twilight, except for the N64 game, which we don't really want to think about. Because, man, that's awful.
Yeah.
And then they did properly let the series die. They did do the WiiWare game, which was kind of a throwback, which we talked about on the WiiWare episode a couple weeks ago. There was a lot of throwbacks on there. There was the Rebirth series and stuff like that. And Konami has continued to do a handful of mobile ports and spin-offs and stuff since then, but it's mostly just been dead. Though we mentioned on the news years ago now that at TGS 2022, Konami held a contest for smaller developers to win the rights to develop sequels to old Konami properties. And the developer Beep won the rights to develop a new Star Soldier game, which is supposedly still in the works under the working title Star Soldier Vive Multiverse.
Oh, that sounds like it's going to be trash.
We'll see. Who knows? Maybe it will have some love given to it. I don't know. We'll find out when it releases, ever.
Yeah. Let's talk games.
Mm-hmm.
So the first game is Star Soldier. This is the NES MSX game.
Yes.
It did come out on VC in 2007, 3DS VC 2013, NSO 2019. I don't like this one.
It's pretty rough. It is aged.
It's bland. It doesn't have a lot of the features I've come to expect from Star Soldier games. They didn't exist yet.
The Nintendo Switch Online does have a whatever they call their plus version of the game that lets you start halfway through with a bunch of power-ups and stuff.
Well, that's cool.
And that's nice. It does kind of give it the Caravan feel to kind of just start in the middle there and have some stuff already.
My biggest issue with this one is it's really hard to see what the fuck is happening.
Yeah.
Just visually, everything is really kind of muddied together, and it does a lot of like parallax layers where like you'll be flying under and between stuff.
Yep.
It's just really hard to see your ship, the projectiles, everything happening. I just had a real hard time.
Like at the time, I think they were going for some advanced graphic techniques.
I could see that.
But it does feel like it's aged pretty poorly. Like
it's just it's just kind of primitive and kind of muddy.
Yeah,
for me, So I never really put much time into the very first Star Soldier.
Yeah,
it's just never been my favorite. It also in the series seems to go back and forth on how much it likes doing this, largely based on how Caravan oriented the title is. But many of the Star Soldier games have these the little boxes you shoot that drop out your power-ups.
Yeah.
Or they'll drop out, score bonuses and stuff. And in the Caravan-focused later games, you see a ton of that, but it has a more defined visual style. This one has a lot of those too, but it just makes the screen really busy.
Yeah,
and it's really hard to see what the hell is happening. So I don't love it.
Yeah.
I do love Super Star Soldier, which is still fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And I love the US box art for the game. It's just a weird scorpion alien shooting a laser beam.
It's very colorful and bright.
Yep.
Yep.
This one came on Wii VC in 2006. Again, we mentioned it was a very early one. PSN 2011, Wii U VC 2014.
And we did get this in America on the TurboGrafx back in 91.
Yeah, we did. This one for me is like, this is what Star Soldier is.
Yeah.
For my money, this is the first Star Soldier game.
It does feel like it's where it establishes its identity.
Definitely. And canonically, it's a few years after Star Soldier. There's a weird, much like the Gradius games. There's a weird amount of plot and like naming of ships and things. Like I think the ship in Star Soldier is called Caesar. Is that what it is?
In
the first game,
I think so.
Because we'll get to it later. I was kind of trying to fill out the gameplay section of these, and it's hard because I'm talking about the gameplay of like 12 different games,
Right.
So I had to be extremely generalized. But I was trying to look up names for some of the power ups and weapons and stuff. And the game, there's like multiple pages of story,
Yeah.
but never does it like give names to the weapons and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, Super Star Soldier, very, 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 very good. Very fun. Very colorful. I think I read somewhere, maybe on Wikipedia, they were like, yeah, it borrows a lot from Blazing Lasers, and like, I don't know how true that is, but I could see it. I could for sure see it. Final Soldier, equally good, which was PC Engine 1991. This one only came out in Japan, but it did hit VC. Right. Man, also very good.
Oh yeah,
and brings in new gameplay stuff, and visually is a very good game, just on the PC Engine, like just a good, outside of stuff that uses like expansion cards and things. Right. Just a really good looking.
Yeah, definitely.
Shmup. Soldier Blade I've not played very much of at all. For some reason, that's the one I always forget is the third, Turbo game.
Yeah, I played a bit of Soldier Blade back when I first found it. I think it was on an emulator when I first found it, but it's it always felt like you can tell that it is a later TurboGrafx game as far as graphics and everything, because it's pretty impressive what all it can put on the screen at the same time without causing a ton of slowdown.
Yeah.
So I've always enjoyed that one.
These and then this is kind of including Star Proteer, which is next, which I guess you could call a spin-off, but also kind of not.
Yeah, gameplay wise, it definitely just feels like the next game, but theming wise, it feels like a spin-off.
Yeah, and I think we covered Star Proteer in our either first or second episode of the show ever.
Yeah.
And in our PC Engine Shmup episodes, we've talked a lot about Star Proteer. It's
amazing.
But it is a fantastic like parody shmup game. Yeah. It's basically a spin-off Star Soldier game that is a parody of Hudson stuff of the PC Engine itself.
It is to Star Soldier what Proteus is to Gradius.
Yeah. And both Star Proteer and Soldier Blade are Star Proteer especially are just such good looking shmups on the system.
Oh yeah.
Star Proteer obviously has its whole cute 'em up vibe, which it does very well, but even Soldier Blade is so visually distinct. It has this very bright, like kind of cartoonish anime kind of look to it that makes it stand out so starkly against things that are more muted, like Gradius, for example, that just kind of blend in a little more. I love the ship designs. Everything's like, tons of greebles and colored panels and things all over the ship. It's just really cool looking stuff,
right?
And then they never made any more Star Soldier games, and that was it.
Certainly no N64 game.
They stopped there. I was excited to play the N64 game.
Why?
I don't know. The note you wrote here is legally considered a video game.
Yeah.
Star Soldier Vanishing Earth came out in 1998. It did get a North American release. It plays like
garbage.
It plays like a Flash game is kind of what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you ever played it, but there is a Flash port of Raiden, one of the Raiden games. And it was pretty good, pretty faithful Raiden ported to Flash. I played it on Newgrounds. I don't remember when, but one of those like forgotten Flash projects. And it makes me think of that just because the way it's animated looks very like early internet Flash game or something. It's bad. It's a bad looking game. It doesn't play good. It's ugly. I don't like it much.
I will say that I like its art style a little more than some other things on the N64, but that's a pretty low bar.
Yeah, it's hard to tell how much of it is just poor art design and how much of it is just the N64 looking like butt a lot of the time. But it's not awesome.
The game's logo makes it look like they're trying to go for Contra for some reason, which they're not.
especially coming from the what I would consider kind of some of the like pinnacle early 90s like sprite work in Star Proteor, in Soldier Blade. These are some of the best looking, 2D sprites that you're going to see.
And then we get
outside.
some fugly early polygon art.
It was bad. It was very bad. You seemed to talk a little highly of Star Soldier on GameCube.
Because it's part of that throwback series.
I didn't...
I think it's better than the N64 game.
I think I'll give you that. It is.
I don't think it's as good as any of the TurboGrafx games, though.
I still feel like it loses some of that visual flair, some of that color pop that makes Soldier Blade and Final Soldier and Superstar Soldier so visually distinct.
Yeah.
And so I didn't love that, and I felt the same thing about
the WiiWare one.
The WiiWare one, which I thought was fine, but compared to the trilogy of games on Turbo, just not as good looking. It just loses some of that visual style.
None of them have stacked up to the TurboGrafx games. I feel like that is the peak of the series and has never been able to get back there.
Yeah. Tell me about these spin-offs, because I did not have time to play any of these, really. I mean, I've played Blazing Lasers, but
so there's
tell me of these.
So there's Starship Hector, which in Japan is known as Hector 87, which is still like the dumbest name of any game ever.
It is, yeah. Is the starship named Hector?
I think that's the
name of
premise,
the ship?
Yeah. So it came out in 87 in Japan and 1990 in America, where it felt really old already, like when it released. So it is considered by Hudson to be a sequel to Star Soldier. It does have slightly different gameplay in that it has both vertical and side-scrolling shmup sections. They did end up just straight up stealing its music to use in Superstar Soldier, so clearly they liked that part of it. But it's okay. It is an early NES shmup.
Yeah.
So it's all right. It's nowhere near as good as any of the PC Engine games in the series.
Yeah.
Then you have Blazing Lasers, which is as good as all of the PC Engine games in the series. It's on PC Engine.
It's real good. I will say, if I were to compare the two, if I were to look at like Blazing Lasers, which was 89, and compare that to kind of the closest contemporary, which would be like Superstar Soldier.
Yeah.
I think Superstar Soldier wins, at least in the visuals department. Again, it's just so visually distinct.
Yeah.
Blazing Lasers is a little more like kind of dark, spacey sort of aesthetic to it. A little more industrial looking a lot of the time. And does also do some of those like overhead parallax scrolling sections from time to time.
That's true.
But also still just a stellar game.
Right.
So.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic. And even though it's not officially part of the series, it's often lumped in with it just because the gameplay's so similar.
So we'll talk about the gameplay system in a minute, but it very much uses the same type of gameplay system.
And then as far as collections go, you got the Caravan Shooting Collection on Super Famicom, which I mentioned earlier. It's the 16-bit ports of Hudson's version of Star Force, as well as the original Star Soldier and Hector 87, all upgraded to 16-bit graphics, kind of Super Mario All-Stars style. Then you have the Hudson Best Collection 5 Shooting Collection on GBA, which is, again, those same three games, Star Force, Star Soldier, Hector 87, but with emulation that's closer to the classic NES series on GBA, which is squished and weird.
Yeah, weird aspect ratio.
Yeah. And then you have the Soldier Collection on PSP, which is the good one, which is Japan only, but it is Superstar Soldier, Final Soldier, Soldier Blade, and Star Proteor all on one UMD, which, man, what a great collection of games that is.
What a lineup, yeah.
Right?
I do see, and it's you mentioned it in these collections, I see these Star Force games often lumped in with Star Soldier.
Well, the one Star Force that Hudson had produced.
No, I mean, I just see them associated with one another. Like, if you go on, like, there is a Soldierpedia, which is the Star Soldier wiki, and it lists the Star Force games as well as kind of like lumped in.
Which I don't know how much Koei Tecmo would want them to lump that in, since that's their IP. But, but it is definitely the precursor to the first Star Soldier.
Yeah. Let's talk gameplay and kind of what makes Star Soldier feel unique. Most Star Soldier games, and to be clear, one, I'm speaking in broad generalities. And 2, I didn't have a lot of time to play a lot of these games, so I'm mostly talking about the ones that I've played.
Yeah.
So if I get something wrong or omit something, then Saturn, you can correct me, and if you don't notice it, then sorry.
Yeah, we'll just roll with it. Fuck it. Do it live.
Most Star Soldier games use a 2-tier kind of upgrade system.
Yep.
They have 3 different types of weapons with a couple of secondary weapons for the most part.
Yep.
This is, again, subtly different per title, but for the most part, you've got weapons. You have the red weapon power-up, which is kind of the Vulcan. It shoots lots of bullets, and as you upgrade it, it shoots a wider shot, eventually shooting behind you in most games. You have the yellow flamethrower, which is not... So you have 4 weapons. The yellow flamethrower is one that gets taken out in some of them. Not all of them have the yellow flamethrower. I think because it ends up feeling not distinct enough, if I were to guess.
It's fair.
You have green, which is kind of the energy/electricity weapon. And then you have blue, which is usually either like a laser beam or like rings.
Which I'm always a big fan of the rings weapon.
Discs. Yeah. So these are the 4.
Or CD-ROMs.
Yeah, right. Red, green, and blue are the ones that I believe are in most of them. Yellow, I don't remember which one, but I remember in one of them I was like, "There's not a yellow," and then the blue kind of took the place of the yellow, or the green did. I don't know. Again, not a lot of time. But
it changes up a little bit in each game. Is the important
yeah. But it uses that color-based kind of upgrade system that you see in Blazing Lasers, that you see in the Raiden games, that you see in probably other shmups I can't think of right now. That I really, really, really like a lot. One, because we've talked about it before. I mean, we did a multi-part episode on just every PC Engine shmup.
It's true.
I actually think that was a 3-part episode. Man, we were crazy we did crazy shit back in the day, Saturn. And I like a lot of power-ups flying at me all the time. I liked it because that's I like
flying at your face.
Yeah, I like having a lot of decision points.
Right.
And sometimes, you'll have a lot of power-ups on the screen, and you get to make a lot of different decisions about, like, what do I want my exact loadout to be right now? And it also means, unlike something like Gradius, where you're kind of working up to a semi-static upgrade path, like, there's a little bit of flexibility in, like, when do you want to use your shield? Do you want to do max speed? Do you want the double shot or the laser?
Right.
But it feels a little more static. In this one, I feel like, my upgrade loadout is changing pretty frequently.
Yeah.
Kind of based on how things are going.
Yeah.
There
or
are
if you accidentally grab a power up.
Right. There are secondary upgrades. There's a missile, which is they're homing in this one. So you'll have a missile upgrade that you can pick up. You can get movable shield drones in Superstar Soldier. Is when they're first introduced, and you can just kind of move them either left or right, or kind of vertically oriented in front and behind you. And as far as I can tell, all they really do is absorb hits.
Yeah, that seems to be the case.
So they kind of just work as a limited shield. But then in Final Soldier in later games, they started using them as your bomb system, and also they're kind of options, so they fire bullets as well. I love having them as a bomb system. I love the idea of a bomb system where you're having to give something up, one of these little satellites up, to use the bomb.
Right.
And it works as a visual indicator of how many bombs you have without having to check a little, digit at the top of your screen.
Right.
It makes bombs something that you care a little bit more about sacrificing. There's more tactical decision points of, like, do I want to keep this satellite, or do I want to, use a bomb?
Right.
And the bomb thing in general kind of changes. Like in Superstar Soldier, picking an upgrade up after being upgraded all the way triggers the bomb. But then Final Soldier, it's the bomb uses your upgrade options. But probably most importantly for me, and the way I play the game, is that Star Soldier games don't use a health bar or one-hit kills.
True.
And they instead, each upgrade is essentially another health point. So, like, if you have a weapon that's been upgraded 3 times, you can be hit 3 times before you die, and each hit downgrades your weapon along the way 1 step.
Right, which makes you a little bit weaker, but at least you don't instantly die.
Right, and I think it's a great compromise between, like, The sort of standard health bars we saw on like some PC and like DOS shmups seem to like doing the health bar thing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a good in between that and like the one hit kills of arcades.
Right.
And so I really love the system in this one. I love that because the game has so many upgrades flying at you at all times that you don't really get caught in death spirals like you do in Gradius games.
Yeah.
Because Gradius is real bad where you're like, all right, I have systematically over 30 minutes gotten all of my options and the laser and the shield and everything. Oh, I got hit twice. Oh, no, it took my shield out and then it killed me, so I guess I have nothing now.
Right.
And even some of them do that thing where after you die, it pops up additional power-ups on the screen to kind of like give you a little bit of a boost,
right?
Which is nice. Most games past the first one also include user-selected ship speed, which I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Having the like either static ship speed or the Gradius style of like, no, you got to get the upgrade path, and then if you upgrade it enough, maybe depending on the game, we'll let you downgrade it.
Right, and you don't have to go chase down the speed up option and,
yes.
and any of that stuff. Yeah.
And then later Star Soldier games kind of, we talked about it. They more embrace the caravan modes. There were specific caravan versions of the games, and it kind of changes how all these different upgrades and stuff work, dependent on the title. But for the most part, this is the system. You have the multicolored upgrade paths, and that also act as your health. You have options that also act as your bombs. What I love about that is it really keeps me in the game looking at my ship, right? I don't have to spend very much time looking at how many bombs I have left, or looking at some games you'll have like specific weapons and stuff that are like indicated at the top of your screen that you can switch between or whatever. Yeah. It's not you're just looking at your ship.
Yes.
Your ship tells you how many bombs you have.
Right.
The size of your projectile tells you how many hits you can take. Like if I'm shooting the Vulcan and I get hit and I'm only shooting a little 2-shot now, I know I'm on my second upgrade. I can get hit 2 more times.
It feels very uncomplicated, even compared to contemporary shmups of its era.
For sure. And what I love about it is that it feels that way, but it's kind of not. Right. I mean, it kind of is as complicated as everything else, but because you don't need a HUD, you don't need a health bar, you don't need to look at anything else. It's not like in R-Type where you're trying to keep up with the little fucking orb you're shooting around all over the place. You're just focused in on your ship. You're laser focused in on your ship. That's all you ever need to look at. It's such a little thing.
Yeah.
It's such a small, subtle thing, but I love that design. That's really clean, intelligent design. That's like, hey, in these games, things are fast. These are hardcore games that are really difficult. Even looking away for a second to be like, how many bombs do I have left, can be the difference between life and death. And so a game like this where it's like, no, we built the whole thing where all you got to look at is your ship and it tells you everything you need to know is huge for me.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's why I get so much enjoyment out of the Star Soldier games when I do remember that they exist and sit down and play some of them. Like so many shmup series I feel like I'm constantly like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, I forgot. Oh yeah, Donpachi's a thing. I forgot about that. Like, and I'm like, oh yeah, these are good.
Right.
But I really like that, especially, these were, released a little later. I would say the best of the series were in the kind of early 90s, which is sort of the
as the shmup genre was tapering at that point.
Yeah, it's kind of the rise of the fighting game as being like the kind of arcade experience du jour, and the beat 'em ups, which we've talked about before.
Yep.
And so I feel like they get kind of overlooked in that regard.
Yeah.
And
which is unfortunate.
And seeing such clean design is so nice.
Oh yeah.
In these games. Tell me about reception of every single Star Soldier game ever made.
All right, let's go through the list. It's generally well received, especially in Japan. Got a lot less attention internationally, like you mentioned. Just because of the era when they came out, you didn't see a ton of reviews for these games, and a lot of the stuff, it's old enough that it doesn't show up on things like Metacritic, so you're stuck with game rankings if you can find the archive of game rankings, which I couldn't at this point. but they were generally well received over there, at least, and they've gotten more positive attention in more recent years as retro gaming has become more prominent, and as people started to realize the TurboGrafx existed. You are seeing more positive praise in the community, in the retro gaming community, in recent years, which I appreciate. I'm glad that it's starting to get the attention that it deserves.
Yeah.
And there was several websites that I found said that the game was well received and received a Western developed Commodore 64 port in Europe. And as I was researching this, I went and tried to look at a video, and it's not the same game. It's just the same name. It has nothing at all to do with it. GameFAQs even refers to it as a port of the NES game. It's not. This is a completely unrelated game. Don't play that one. It looks awful.
I would say as far as legacy, and you have it here in the notes, that caravan competitions in the broad scheme of gaming and the shmup genre, that's probably the real legacy of Star Soldier,
Right.
Which for me is not at all what I enjoy about the franchise.
Right.
I get that this was one of the first times that this was a thing and they kind of invented it.
Yes.
But it's not what I come to this for. It's not what I come to these games for,
Right.
And I guess kind of getting into recommendations a little bit too is like, for me, in my mind, Star Soldier is a trilogy of games with one spinoff, and that spinoff is Star Parodier, right? And as a trilogy of Super Star Soldier, Final Soldier, Soldier Blade, and then Star Parodier as your weird game, they're outstanding titles. Absolutely outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
And really stand head and shoulders above a lot of other stuff, even much more storied and celebrated shmup franchises.
Yeah, like Gradius and such. I'd say the 3 TurboGrafx games and Star Parodier, which is the 4th TurboGrafx game, I guess, are all excellent. I think they all hold up pretty well. The NES game is a little meh, but it's...
I think there are better NES shmups you can play. I mean, there was a Rekka on Famicom that you've got.
Granted,
I would play Abadox over Star Soldier.
There's 7 years difference between Star Soldier and Rekka. So
right, there's a bit of a gap.
Different.
Yeah, there's a gap, but still, like, if you're looking like NES shmups,
absolutely.
First games,
there's better stuff to go to, but the TurboGrafx games, I think, all still hold up well and are worth revisiting.
100%, absolutely, 100%. They're outstanding, and just pretend that was it. Pretend that they stopped after that, Saturn.
Yeah,
that's all you gotta do.
Don't look at the N64 game; it's a mistake. No reason to even remember that happened.
I was like, how bad could it be? It's bad. At one point, you're playing and they didn't seem to know what to do with the backgrounds. Or maybe they didn't have money.
Yeah.
And they start showing these like system errors as your background.
Okay, yeah.
And it says you fight the first boss. We didn't even talk about bosses. I really do like the boss design in this game.
Mm-hmm,
yeah. The franchise is also real good about having mid-level bosses too.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always interesting. They're always fun. Really cool stuff, especially coming from... I know I keep comparing it favorably to Gradius, and I do like Gradius. We've talked about the Gradius games. I enjoy them.
Gradius games.
I think Salamander is better, but it's all in the same
Gradius game
camp, right?
Yeah.
But coming from like the boss design of Gradius, that's just bad, I guess, for lack of a better word. It's like, here's another big block of metal panels with the hole that you got to shoot in the middle.
Right.
They do really good stuff. Right. Excuse me, the core.
Yeah.
The first boss in the N64 game is like this big, like, it's like a mecha, like a Gundam looking robot. But the background is just big, giant system errors. Like, it's the ground says system error on it. And I thought my emulation was fucked up. And I was like, is my N64 emulator fucking up and trying to throw system errors in the background?
It was just the fashion at the time to make it look like computers were dying.
It just was very, very weird and not awesome to see.
I don't know if you looked at the MSX version at all.
No, I didn't.
So the MSX version of the first Star Soldier and Hudson's Port of Star Force, for that matter, were released on their proprietary B card format.
Oh.
So it just looks like a Hue card, that you plug into an adapter that you plug into your MSX. And the packaging that they released these in were basically just blister packs with the HuCard in the middle of them.
Oh, Neo Geo Pocket Color style.
Yeah, it's just very strange. It's very bizarre to think of games being sold in blister packs in the mid 80s.
I was looking at because the N64 game, Vanishing Earth,
which has the worst box.
An arcade release.
Oh.
On the Alec 64, which was the N64 arcade machine.
Was it the only game that used it?
No, because I was like, what else released on this? I didn't realize there was an N64 arcade machine.
Well, how else would they have made Killer Instinct, Justin?
Well, Killer Instinct isn't listed as an Alec 64 game.
Because it was used its own proprietary format.
Other games on it are 11-Beat, which was developed with Hudson, Hanabi de Dune, Don-chan Puzzle, Hi Pi Paradise 2, Kuru Kuru Fever, Magical Tetris Challenge featuring Mickey.
Okay, yeah. Played that.
Developed with Capcom. Majinsen 3, Rev Limit, which never came out, which just looks like a weird racing game. Star Soldier, Super Real Mahjong Versus, Alec Borden Adventure 4th Story Tower and Shaft, Vivid Dolls, and Variant Schwanzer. Schwanzer are all the N60 or Alex 64 games. And I was just like, man, what a fucking shit show. It was only in Japan.
Yeah.
The Alex 64 was only in Japan. It was just very weird to see that. Really, on the Alex 64 platform, I think probably Magical Tetris Challenge and Star Soldier Vanishing Earth are the standout titles.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
What about Vivid Dolls?
What about it, Saturn? Vivid Dolls
I just pulled up this list of games on Alex 64 and it says Vivid Dolls is an adult action puzzle game developed by Visco for the Alex 64.
Oh, no.
And it's immediately showing soft porn.
Because I'm on the Wikipedia article and doesn't have articles for most of these games. What is Variant Schwanzer?
It doesn't say. It just says unreleased.
God damn it.
Yeah.
I assume it's the sequel to Schwanzer.
Yeah.
So now they've got the variant
version.
Oh, it was unreleased. It was unreleased.
Yeah,
all right. So two of these games are unreleased.
Yeah. But Tower and Shaft released.
Yeah, thank God we got Alec Borden Adventure 4th Story Tower and Shaft.
Yeah, I don't have the full name of that. It just says Tower and Shaft on the list I'm looking at.
No, it says Alec Borden Adventure 4th Story.
Alec Borden Adventure sounds like the most boring thing I've ever heard of in my life. Like, hello, I'm Alec Borden, and this is
welcome
my
to my
adventure.
4th Story adventure. Yeah. So yeah, that's Superstar Soldier. Please go play the TurboGrafx games or the PC Engine games. They're so good. I think at least a couple of them are on the TG Mini, which as soon as I say that, I just remembered nobody can fucking buy that anymore. So just know that they exist there and they're
just know that they're okay. They're safe.
But none of them are Turbo CD games, so they all should emulate on virtually anything. And run pretty well. And man, they're so good. They're so absolutely worth playing.
Yeah.
I enjoy all of them greatly and enjoy them more as time goes on. I think I would play Star Soldier over any of the R-types entirely.
I'm probably with you there. I enjoy R-Type, and I still would rather play the Star Soldier games.
I think I would probably take the better Star Soldiers over a lot of the Gradius games.
I think the thing for me is that Star Soldier always feels more forgiving, and I'm a big fan of that in my shmups.
It does. It does feel just a little kinder, and I think it's just that power. As you get power ups, you get more health. And I don't know, because I was playing it and I was like, this does feel easier, and I don't know if it's that it's easier or if it's just it has a health system,
right?
That isn't you got hit, now you're dead,
now you're instantly dead.
But I think it's that combined with the kind of cartoony visual aesthetic makes it feel just a little softer around the edges.
Absolutely.
And I like that. And if you like things that are soft around the edges,
try Vivid Dolls
or our Patreon at patreon.com/Retro Warriors, where there is no softcore pornography. Not any at all. 0% softcore pornography. We're working on it. We have a new corporate initiative.
We're going to take pictures of guys' feet.
Poor guy's sick at home with coronavirus and we're promising feet pics on the episode. He's going to get some weird ass messages on Discord in about a week and a half. He'll be like, what the fuck did y'all say about my feet on the show? You know what? Let's lean into it. Everyone, please ask Guy in the Discord for feet pics.
Yeah, he loves that.
And just pretend like it's something you're interested in. And don't be like they said it on the show. Just be like, I don't know, I'd really like that. That'd be cool if you sent us some. What did you just want to know what they look like?
The question is, does he listen to this before everyone else?
I don't know. He's sick right now, so maybe he won't. Maybe he'll get behind.
Maybe he'll have extra time to listen.
I think what I just admitted is we're taking advantage of a friend who is sick. For the sake of a joke about foot pics.
Guy, I'm sorry that I threw you under the bus with that. You were just the first name that came to mind.
So yeah, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Retro Warriors, and then you can be as cool as all these patrons who we're going to thank right now, starting with Robert Vieira Jr.
And a discontinued cigarette.
Fart butt. Sometimes it's the dumb ones that get me, you know.
That's something my grandmother used to call us. RD Forum, your one-stop shop for all your radar detector and LiDAR jammer needs.
That's weird. I think we got a Google ad in our Patreon. Brian Kim.
Khonshu.
Grover and Simba.
Will and Angie.
Ice climber enthusiast. Oh man, I'm sorry.
You're the one. And Brandon Johnson.
Are all patrons apparently who we want to thank for their kind donations.
Indeed.
To the
and their LiDAR jammers.
LiDAR jammer. It's just so much LiDAR going around. Just need to jam it up.
Do not ask Guy if he has any LiDAR jam on his feet.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. And as always, let us cling together.